auto reviewer Doug DeMuro, hoping to connect with those enthusiasts through his own auction website. And here to chat about autos is Doug. He's Cars and Bids founder, as well as Yahoo Finance's Pras Subramanian and Brian Sazi. And Pras, I'm going to toss it over to you.
Hey, Doug, how you doing, man? It's Pras here, a huge fan of your work, man. You know, you went from the content creating side to actually owning your own business, your startup Cars and Bids. You raised $37 million recently. What's it been like moving over from the content side to the actually business VC side?
It's been harder than I expected, to be totally honest. There is a lot. If I always tell people, if I had known it was going to be this difficult to run a business like this, I would have just started a podcast. I think it would have been a lot easier. But now that things are up and running and off to the races, it's gone reasonably well. And of course, we launched this business in June of 2020. We thought it was going to fail because it was COVID, but actually we launched into the greatest car market in the history of the automobile. So it all worked out okay.
Doug, we're always talking about the quirks and features here in the stock market and the economy every day. Take us into your website and some of the data. What are you seeing in the used car market in terms of prices right now, based on the things you're selling?
You know, we mostly focus on enthusiast cars, but I think that enthusiast cars are sort of a reflection of the car market as a whole. Obviously, things have slowed down from their very peak, which felt to me like the end of 21, beginning of 22, maybe the spring of 22. That's kind of where things hit their top. But demand is still stronger than I was expecting. I was thinking, you know, as interest rates were rising throughout 22, cars would really start to slow down. People would start to maybe pull back on their purchase of these things. That hasn't really happened as much as I thought. Good stuff is still bringing good money, and people are still paying big money over sticker, as they call it, for really highly demanded new cars. So you're talking about stuff like Rivians and the latest sports cars that are coming out from various automakers.
So, Doug, you know, speaking of that, we just saw Amelia Island wrap up this past weekend. I think they had a record amount of sales there. And I think kind of dovetails what you're saying. There's resiliency there that you're kind of surprised by. But also I've heard you talk about how some sellers on your platform maybe have unrealistic expectations. So is there sort of a balancing act there?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no question that some cars have slowed down, and frankly, that most cars have come back a little bit from their peak. There are still a few enthusiast cars that are continuing to go up, and it seems like will continue to go up. But yeah, I mean, sellers come to us, we try to negotiate reserve prices with them. And sometimes they come to us asking, you know, using comps from 18 months ago, conveniently ignoring all the comps since 18 months ago, that have kind of slowed down a little bit, and ask why we can't match those numbers anymore. And those numbers are definitely not where things are at this moment. But again, not as far back as I was expecting us to be when I started hearing a talk about rising interest rates, potential recession, that sort of thing.
So, Doug, pivoting slightly to your first business, which was your YouTube channel, which I know a lot of fans we love the work, and it's you know, you maintain this sort of simple aesthetic of how you make your videos, and people like that. What's it like being a content creator these days? Are you so bullish on the YouTube game? Is it changing? Is it better?
That's a great question. It is definitely changing. There's no doubt that for a lot of reasons, I find that it's changing. But I think one of the biggest changes is the additional platforms that are coming on. You're seeing all these other platforms start to go after content creators. Facebook is paying big money to bring people. And of course, TikTok is on the forefront of everybody's minds right now. And I think that's going to fragment things. I always tell people who ask me, you know, how can I go and do what you did? I tell them to take a time machine back to 2013 and start YouTube then, because that seems to me that was sort of the heyday where it was the place to go to watch everything. And now stuff is starting to definitely fragment a little bit in terms of short form and creators going into other places and doing other things.
Doug, I was thinking back, I don't know, it was maybe a month or two ago, you broke down why prices for Teslas in the used car market are coming under pressure. What are you seeing now there, and what's next for that brand? We're coming off an investor day for Tesla. They didn't come out with a new model. They cut prices today. What's your outlook for a brand like that?
You know, it's interesting. When Tesla first came out with the Model S 10 years ago, believe it or not, it's been over 10 years ago now, it was so far ahead of everybody else that you couldn't catch up to Tesla. There was no possible way to catch up to Tesla. And in the ensuing 10 years, people have caught up to Tesla. And like you said, they haven't come out with a lot of new, exciting models recently. Tesla hasn't really shown us anything like they used to, where they could just drop something and wow everybody and stay years ahead. And it's just not quite like that as much anymore. And so I worry a little bit that the competitive advantage that Tesla had over the last 10 years has eroded fairly considerably. They no longer have the only electric cars with long range. They no longer have the only driver assist tech that can really do a great job of driving for you in a lot of situations. the Cybertruck, which has been touted and vaunted for years, is late. I mean, ultimately, Rivian is already out with a pickup. General Motors is out with a pickup. Ford has the Lightning. And so Tesla, it certainly doesn't have the same level of first mover advantage, I think, that it once did. But it's obviously still a very strong brand, and there's still an enormous amount of interest in it.
Who do you think Tesla's biggest competitor is, Doug? We're always comparing Tesla to Lucid, but Lucid's not really making any cars. Polestar is making cars, but they don't seem to compare with Tesla. Is it a GM? Is it a Ford that Tesla should be worried about?
That's a great question. I think it depends on the segment that you're in, and also I think it's just sort of some brands come out. I mean, Rivian will be a good competitor in the truck space, but they have nothing to compete with the Model 3. Yes, Polestar is competitive with the Model 3, but they have nothing to compete with, SUVs. Frankly, I think that the legacy brands are trying to figure out EV at a pace that they have never tried before, and I think that you will see those as the big Tesla competitors. I don't view Lucid as that big of a competitor. Like you said, they're not making or selling that many cars. But when you look at the Ford Mustang Mach-E, to me, that is a very competitive car with the Model Y. And I think that General Motors and Ford are very committed to an electric vehicle strategy that is going to make them continually kind of banging at Tesla's door over the next few years.
Hey, Doug, so maybe we'll see some EVs kind of come down the pipeline on the enthusiast modern classic kind of range there. But, I wanted to ask you, I know you from time to time you do sort of your picks on what kind of cars might actually, be a good investment down the line. I'm looking at telling Sazi, I'm looking at a nice C6 Corvette, but, I think I might have missed the market on that. What are some of the things you're looking at in terms of cars that might be under the radar, that might be decent investments down the line?
That's an interesting question. A lot of people ask me that, and it's difficult over the last year to really say anything because so many cars shot up so fast in 2021 that it's like hard to believe that anything is going to continue to grow. But I will say one segment that I will remain bullish on until probably years to come, analog cars that aren't, as the world moves to electric vehicles, which I think are great for most people for daily transportation, I do think there's going to be a huge segment of the enthusiast world that's going to wish to have cars with manual transmissions, cars that have a big engine sound, cars that still feel like kind of the old days. And I think analog cars that have those qualities are still going to continue to be desirable. A lot of those cars have shot up in value over the last 5-10 years, but I think they're going to continue to do so as more and more electric vehicles start to erode, any sort of engine sound and driving feel that we have in our daily drivers. Enthusiasts are going to seek those types of cars more for fun backroads driving.
I'm keeping my 91 Trans Am. If Doug said, I'm keeping, I'm not getting rid of that thing.
I was going to say, Doug, I think you're speaking to two of those enthusiasts here on set today. I saw Saz smiling very enthusiastically as you were talking. Thanks so much for doing this. Cars and Bids founder Doug DeMuro and Yahoo Finance's Pras Subramanian and Brian Sazi. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.